Hello, everybody, and welcome. By the title, you've already figured out this is going to be about MMORPGs and why I love and hate them so. Uh, Basically, what it comes down to is I'm going to go over like the last four MMORPGs, Black Desert being one of them. Like the background video that's going on right now. Uh, so it's going to be ESO, Black Desert, Blade and Soul, and Arcade. Yeah, screw you, Tryon. Cover for that ass. But basically, it's what I've liked about some of these games. What I've truly despised about these games, pretty much things like that. So I'm gonna start off with ESO. Um, what it's gonna be broken down to is the story, the graphics, the general community, and like the PvE, PvP content. And I guess I can throw in costumes. I don't know. Fuck. I don't care. so, uh, so with ESO, the story is you're taking part in the Three Factions War, and you've escaped Moloch Ball and Cold Harbor, and blah blah blah. You're supposed to be some kind of major hero, but since it also revolves around the Three Factions War, you also support one of three factions. Uh, Sort of, because at a certain point, it once you finish one faction, then you have to play through the other two, and that kind of gets annoying. But there's also like the DLC content that came out with it, so you got various other things. The things I didn't like was that they had to implement like the Thieves Guild and Dark Brotherhood and all that in future content updates, which kind of should have been released, day one, because then people are just walking into houses and looting the houses and selling stuff off, and yeah, that kind of sucks when you think about it, because people are just farming things. Uh, but the story itself was actually kind of good because it actually pushed towards the overall PvP content in the end, which, by the way, was amazing. Uh, this is PvP content that it should have been. Uh, so ZeniMax Online Studios did good when it came to that. The Siege Warfare, that was just phenomenal. You could actually hold fortresses if you played it right. If you were sieging a fortress and you did things correctly, you could wipe out everyone that's in there, claim that fortress for your faction, and a particular guild would then occupy that fortress until it became under attack. So that was actually really smart way to actually incorporate PvP into that game without it being, in faction killing and all that bull crap that happens in games like this all the time. Graphics wise, though, I don't know. It seems like they could have done more. I mean, really. I mean, I played the beta and I was reporting bugs that were, throughout the entire thing, throughout the entire every beta stage, and then when they released, it was still bugged. One of the things I was reporting. Uh, but in terms of I already went through the story, so the graphics themselves, like they could get kind of glitchy depending on like the camera, but the game was still very beautiful to look at. So don't get me wrong, it was still a nice game to see. Uh, the PvP, it was awesome. You had all of Cyrodiil. If you crouch down into like a sneak mode, other factions wouldn't be able to see you unless they were right on top of you, which meant that you could launch surprise attacks on people and use that as a strategy. Uh, like everything that dealt with the PvP in that game, they did an amazing job with that, and I had to commend them at least that for that part. But when it came to the content itself, like the PvE content, you would quickly run through that pretty fast. Uh, I don't know how much more was added since I stopped playing, because like when I stopped playing, the Thieves Guild and the Dark Brotherhood went out. But when they did get released, I jumped back in for a short amount of time and then lost interest on it again. Uh, in terms of Arcade, which was another one, Arcade had the story of I have no clue, really. I guess you were supposed to be some chosen hero or some crap. Uh, it's not the game that you would play just for the story. Like it literally became like a backseat to everything else in the game because you would get so sidetracked from the actual storyline. Uh, but it does have a story, however. I just can't remember it off the top of my head. Uh, but there is actually two different factions, and at current with the release of 3.0, there is three races per faction. So in one continent you have the dwarves, you have the Nuians, and you have the elves. On the other one you had the Furin, which are a cat race people, the Hirani, which are also another human race, and then you have the Battleborn, which were like a semi-beast human race kind of thing. Kind of hard to describe them. They look like giant people with horns. That just fucking OP. Uh, each race itself had its own kind of perks, so that was pretty awesome. The graphics wise, like the ocean content, that was pretty awesome. Like the game had some really beautiful areas and really nice places to check out. But in terms of PvE and PvP content, the PvP was just overrun by dickish people. If you had a server that like the one I was on, it was literally ruled over by one guild, and anything you did, you had to be careful of not pissing off that one guild, which was a pain in the ass. It truly was. And not only that, because that guild was a really heavy pay to win guild, the admins left them alone and ignored the fact that they were using hacks, exploits, and duplicated items and like just general cheating. Uh, Not only that, they also had the admins also in their team speak as well, which kind of sucks when you think about it. Because you have a game which is being screwed over by one guild, which is also buddy buddies with the admin, so nothing bad ever happened to them. But if other people did the same thing that they were doing, they were getting banned. So it's kind of crappy like that if you think about it. Uh, also, with the actual PvE content, like you could burn through the PvE content really quickly, and then it became like a grind session. Or if you wanted to, you could do trade runs, which took forever. Or you could do what they did just before I, lost interest in the game entirely, and just stopped caring about it. They had salvage, like deep sea salvage, so that you could raise ships that were sunk to the surface of the ocean. Grab the loot that was on the ships if you could, and fill up your own trade ship and try to get it in the dock. Now, mind you, you're in an entire the PvP area doing PvE content. So if you were trying to get a ship, you needed to make sure that your ship was fast, it was lightweight, and you could outrun basically everyone that was on the ocean. If you couldn't outrun anyone in the ocean, your ship was going to get sunk. All the packages that you worked hard for to get were going to be taken, and you were going to find no financial gains from this, which just sucked. I mean, it's crap. And on top of that, every content update that was released for the game was released as PvP pushing content, which is just horrible. Not only that, Tryon was a greedy, money grubbing company. That's right. I'm targeting you, Tryon, just straight out like this. And what I mean by greedy, money grubbing content, the Korean version of the game had like both Korean and like the westernized version of the game has a island called Mirage Island, and where you port in, there's a massive tower. In the Korean version of this game, inside that tower was everything, like every costume, every item that was placed in what Tryon put in like RNG boxes. So what I mean by Tryon made it into a money grubbing cash grab was every costume was a RNG roll costume and a loot box that you hoped that you would get the costume, which served no purpose other than cosmetic. In the Korean version, costumes actually had stat bonuses, which didn't get implemented until about version 2.7 of the westernized version, which was just complete BS. Not only that, they had to reincorporate a system into the game that they removed themselves from it that was originally part of the Korean version. On top of that, there was actually a casino on Mirage Island, which is blocked off, but you can still get into the casino. You just can't do anything in it. Uh, so not only that, content was removed, loot drop like RNG loot roll bullcrap systems were incorporated into everything into the game. They required you to spend vast amounts of money in the hopes that you might get some good loot. You could literally buy your way to becoming one of the top tier players by having some of the top tier weapons and just general items and whatnot. It just became a huge cash grab by the company when I left that game, and that just really was sad. I mean, it sucked that badly. Uh, then we have Blade and Soul, which again, it is a beautiful game. It just looks really nice. Every area has its own unique look, except the game felt like it was on rails. Uh, the game story wise, it was actually like a story about revenge. Like some people came in, killed off everyone in your like school or whatever. You're in some martial arts school and with your class, and they kill your like master or whatever. They kill off all the other students. They kill off everyone that's there, and you're the only one that manages to survive. And then you set off on this path of kind of like revenge, and then it gets to a certain point where the story kind of stopped, and then they released like a kind of like a tower thing where it's supposed to extend the story. But I couldn't even get past the first damn boss floor, which kind of sucked because I was playing solo, and it is a single like through that entire tower is a solo tower, and if you can't get past it using like stupid crazy amounts of like skill chains, it was annoying. As for the PvP in that game was optional, which I thought was actually pretty cool. They have actually like two different factions in this game, and you could join up or just ignore both those factions. And if you joined up with the factions, you got a costume. If you wore that costume, it enabled PvP mode, so you could attack other players the wearing the costume of the opposing faction, but you couldn't attack anyone that wasn't wearing a faction costume. Well, what I mean by this is, say that you were in a town and you popped on your faction costume. If you looked around, if nobody else was wearing the opposing faction costume, then you wouldn't find that there was any PvP in that area. But if you left the town and you looked around, you could probably find one or two people wearing their faction costume. On top of which, if if you want to remove it, you could, and it would automatically take you out of PvP mode. But you'd also be able to see everyone that was wearing your faction's costume as well. So you could see how many people were in that town that were factioned up. Not only that, every costume in that game gave a different kind of look to it. So you could customize your character's look even further just with the costumes. And the costumes themselves weren't cash grabs. They literally, like, there were some that were in the cash shop, but you could just try on the costume, see how your character looked. If you didn't like the way that costume itself looked, then you could just ignore it. Or you could actually buy it, and then you could stick it in like your character's wardrobe. But it wasn't an RNG roll. So the game itself was not a pay to win. The PvP was actually pretty cool. I mean, even in the arena, you could actually have like tag matches where people could tag in, attack like the opponents that you're attacking too, and then when their like tag in time limit like dropped, like hit 0, then they were out of the match. Well, not the match, but out of the tag out. So it basically came down to 1v1, 3v3, and like some other various ones that was like an arena type battle. And it actually took it. Say that you were like a level 10 and you were fighting somebody that was a level 50. The level 50 would come down to about a level 25, and then you would also be brought up to about a level 25 in terms of like damage and like it basically balanced out fighting. But the difference would be between you as a level 10 and the level 50 would be that the level 50 would have more attack skill lines than you would as a level 10. So that being the case, it actually made for quite an interesting way in terms of combat. Everyone was able to say you figured out how to combat certain uh, races in that like game or whatever, you could use your knowledge on those particular races to come up with a victory, even though that you were under leveled. So it really made balance an actual thing. So pretty much what I'm saying up until this point, RNG crap is horrible. I freaking hate RNG shit that is massive cash grabs. Screw anyone that decides that cash grabs is a freaking good idea. uh, PvP is good if it's done right, is another thing I'm saying. If you do a horrible job with the PvP, it becomes the trolliest, most piece of crap game that you can ever find. And I've literally played a lot of MMORPGs. I'm just going with the last four I've played over the last few years because I don't want this video to be too long. This is where I come into Black Desert Online. Uh, I haven't really seen too much in the way of PvP personally, but there is massive amounts of PvP. If you've been watching, you've probably seen things like such and such guild has declared war on such and such guild, or like the banners that I'm passing right now. There are things like node wars. Node wars are like PvP content where it comes down to people are fighting for control over certain nodes, which gives your guild itself bonuses in terms of finances and just general like skill stats or whatever. What I mean by finances is your guild has missions that they can do on a daily basis, and these daily missions can provide guild funds. Guild funds pay for guild like the active guild members and anyone that like withdraws funds from the guild itself, like because they have like a daily allowance that they get. So once those guild funds run zero, then kind of goes into like a bankruptcy kind of state almost. But if your guild controls the controls nodes, then they get bonuses to their guild funds. They get like a tax kind of thing. They also like the whole guild system itself is actually pretty in depth. It's actually one of the most in depth guild systems I've actually ever seen. And with the addition of guild stables, guild so on and so forth, it's actually making it into a better game when it comes to the guild. As you can see from the graphics of this game, it is a very beautiful game. Horses themselves are also tiered between, I think it's like 1 and 10. And to get a horse, you have to go out into the wild with lumps of sugar and lassos, or like at least you'll see it in my like bottom last slot. And it's like a mini game. You play a mini game and you hope that you can get to sit on the horse. If the horse lets you sit on it, then you can ride it to any stable and register it as your horse. You'll also notice that each horse has like different unique looks to it, based on tier alone. So it's going to be something that you're going to want to pay attention to. There's also hunting in the game that you can level up as a skill. Cooking as a skill is also another thing that can be leveled up. Fishing is another thing that you can make money and level up as a skill. There's like alchemy, like just generally like crafting and things like that. But you also have your own workforce too. If you go to a work manager or whatever, you can hire like giants, humans, goblins, and things like that to perform tasks for you. Goblins do better when it comes to crafting because they are faster, whereas giants can carry more and but are a bit slower. And humans are kind of in between the giants and the goblins in terms of crafting and being able to do like harvesting tasks. They're faster than giants are, but they can't carry as much as the giants. So it becomes what is it that you wish for? Do you want balance, or do you want something to be done faster, or kind of like that? Uh, the story itself is your character has lost all their memory. They wake up in this town, and this black spirit is telling you to do shit. And some of it's not kind of nice. Uh, Whereas others, you go, oh yeah, I can help this town out. I can help these people out. And sometimes it will actually ridicule you for no apparent reason for stupid stuff. It's also how you enchant your items, like your weapons and things like that, to increase their damage. Every weapon that you get as a drop starts off as a +0 weapon, and through enchanting with the Black Spirit, you get all the way up to a +15 with regular stones. Before you can start taking the whole "do I want to destroy my weapon" thing into account, because after +15, then it becomes like an RNG dice roll kind of thing, where it becomes more statistics, not really RNG, I should say. Uh, it becomes, you have a chance of it breaking, and this is a percentage chance of it breaking. This is a percentage chance of it being successful, all the way up to like +20, and after that, I think it rolls over to like I forget, like I honestly haven't even gotten like a weapon that far, to be honest with you. Uh, but you also use the Black Spirit for the weapon reform stones, and the weapon reform stones themselves will actually increase the tier of the weapon itself from kind of like a green status to ultimate status, and ultimate status also boosts up the overall damage. You have two different versions of stats themselves. They are the defense power, or DP, and you have attack power, or AP. Attack power, uh, as it sounds like, dictates how much attack that you do. Defense power dictates, again, how much attack that it does. Every class themselves benefits from different types of like armor. So if you're playing, say, like my character, which is a Kunoichi, then you're going to want to go with the Terratus armor, because it gives, like, I guess, attack speed and pretty much just dodge ability and whatnot. Uh, Whereas the Yuria short sword is the sword that you're going to go with, because it's more balanced for PvE and PvP content, just in case you do get into a fight. I'm also using shurikens over the kunai because reasons. I haven't really found a kunai that I liked better than my current exquisite shuriken, so I'm gonna go with that. Uh, but there's also every combat class itself does have a counterpart, except for the tamer and the sorceress. What I mean by that is, you have the knight and you have the Valkyrie. You have the witch and the wizard. You have the Kunoichi, and you have the ninja. You have the Meiwa and the Musa. Those, by the way, are like a samurai type class. You also get I guess like Berserker is the only male specific class, whereas Tamer and Sorceress is the only female specific class. But other than that, every other class in the game has a gender specific like name to it. But also, not only that, the stats themselves will be different. One will be weaker than the other. Say, for example, you have like the ninja and the Kunoichi. The Kunoichi is actually going to be stronger than the ninja in terms of some of the skills, but that's also based on your particular skill play. The Kunoichi has longer like skilled cooldowns, whereas the ninja has shorter skill cooldowns, which means that you'll be able to use the skills faster, but they're going to be less powerful. So it becomes like a trade-off thing that you have to pay attention to. So in terms of, like the content themselves, like for the PVE PvP, it's got a lot of PVE content, like so much so that you will probably never run out. There is literally over 1,000 like side quests that you can do in this game. If you just straight up did side quests, you would never be able to run out. I tried clearing out the side quests in one area, one day or over the course of a few days, but kept finding more and more. So, and that's just in one area. So when it comes down to it, there is so much PVE content you will never run out. But PvP content itself, it deals more with kind of like the arena battles. If you go to an arena area, then you're going to be forced into PvP kind of mode, or you can activate PvP mode and start attacking people, which kind of sucks. And you'll also get like a crime thing in a particular area for kind of doing that too if you get caught by guards doing it. And you will not win against guards. They will kill you every time. There's also a black market, which you also need to be careful about on this game, because if the guards catch you talking to a black market vendor, then you're going to get a wanted status and wind up in jail. That's right, there's jail in this game. So it's going to be like one of those games that if you do like this one, then you're going to like stick with it for a while. I mean, it came out almost a year ago. It's January now. It came out in March. So, yeah, it's been almost a year. So, you got that pretty well off. So, to surmise what I like about games like these, like the MMOs, is the ability to play with other people, like an RPG, which is awesome because guild content is always fun. Things like the Elder Scrolls PvP content that I found to be like amazingly fun. I loved the Elder Scrolls PvP content. Uh, like daily rewards, like you just saw. Also another thing for like logins and stuff like that. That's something that I also quite enjoyed as well, because it gives you incentive to actually continue playing. Uh, and it's not like a pay to win type of situation either, because this game itself isn't really pay to win. I mean, people say like, yeah, the costumes are pay to win because they lower like penalties on death, but it's not that big of a penalty. I mean, it's like a reduction by 20% pretty much on death penalties. Uh, but then again, you also still have to have the entire sets equipped to make the entire thing beneficial. Uh, Another thing that I liked about these kinds of games is the PVE content. Is the fact that PVE content is like a monthly release or bi-monthly release or something, which makes it a lot of fun. It makes it so that it's always an interesting game. It's always evolving. It's always things like that. In terms of community for each of these games, ESO had a fairly good community. I mean, people were actually supportive. I've actually seen people congratulating each other after like a successful siege or a successful defense of a siege, and just like generally just like a good vibe to it. Mainly because the people that were paying to play it when it was like a subscription based game, they were not being trolly because they didn't want to get banned. I don't know so much now that it's free to play because I haven't really, like I said, put too much time into it. Um, the community can also be the another thing I hate about games. In ArcAge, the community of ArcAge was freaking toxic. Oh my god, I hated that community. There was more assholes in that game that were just like trolls than anything else. Uh, there's not really many nice things I could say about ArcAge. Like when I left it. Uh, it just became like a game that was toxic, and I just kept doing the same repetitive stuff over and over again, which was like salvage operations just for the money to try to get gear that could put me on competitive level or make it so that dungeons and things like that uh, were run easier. But other than that, the community just sucked. There was a lot of nice people. Don't get me wrong. I was in a guild that had a lot of really nice people, but they were also the older players too. Uh, you're going to find that the younger players are going to be the more of the trolls that don't understand. Hey, people do exist in this game. You can't be a dick. Whereas the older players, they treated everyone with respect. Like that's what I got from the people I like joined up in a guild with. They were older players. They were a lot of fun to play with. Uh, and then we go to Blade and Soul, and the community on that one. Oh my god, the community on that one was amazing. Like when I left Arcade and started playing Blade and Soul, I expected the community to be similarly as toxic, but they were actually like there was a lot of people that were like overly helpful. Well, I can't really say overly helpful. They were helpful to everyone that asked questions. I was amongst those people that were like answering questions because I played through some of the beta for that one. Uh, so the community was helpful. If you needed help, people would show up and they would help you. If there was an area where things were like co-op or like boss fights or whatever, because there was like world boss fights where you could actually get like pretty good loot, and you could just grind those boss fights. There were people that were doing that all the time. Everyone would be like would pretty much just not really like kill each other or like interfere with anyone. Everyone would just kind of cooperate and work together because everyone's goal was the same, was to get the loot drops, like the specific tokens that you could get from the loot, to do the roulette wheel, which would give you soul shield, like the soul shield shards, costume fragments, like and just various other loot, which was highly helpful. So everyone benefited from working together in that game because working together in that game was allowed you to get things that you couldn't get normally. Uh, but in Black Desert Online, you'll have people that are kind of trolls, but you're gonna generally have a bunch of people that were helpful. There's like for a while there was a week where I was just constantly asked to join a guild while I was playing solo, and like I said thanks for the invite, but I'm currently waiting on some certain people, which, by the way, never contacted me. I joined up on the game with some friends. They disband the guild so they could merge with another guild. I never got an invite into that guild. Then there was a falling out, and everyone left that guild that they joined up with, joined a new like reformed a new guild, and I still didn't get an invite. I think they just forgot about me or something. But anyway, I'm like even solo, Black Desert, like the community itself is still like an amazing community. You're gonna, like I said, you're still gonna have the trolls. You're gonna have the assholes. I'm pretty sure you're gonna like you've seen some of the comments that have been in the chat window that's been scrolling. Because I decided not to hide that just to show what some of the stuff that gets said in this game is. But like as I said, some of the things I like is sometimes the community is awesome. Like sometimes the content is awesome, but some of the things I hate about MMORPGs is the forced use of RNG bullshittery. Uh, when it doesn't make sense, when it's a cash grab, it is just complete bullshit. And companies that have MMORPGs that use RNG rolls as a cash grab to force people to continuously buy stuff to get specific items out of the things that they could have just added to the frickin' marketplace and still made money off of because they're still making tons of money off of it through subscription bullshittery anyway. That needs to stop. Again, fuck you, Tryon. Because let me put it to you why I hate Tryon's arcade, like release of arcades. You had to have a subscription that you could get through in-game gold, but it's not easy to pay for that thing because the market price on the items needed to get a free subscription fluctuate wildly, anywhere between like I've seen it as high as like one like 1,500 gold all the way down to like 300. And to get gold, you have to spend labor. But to regenerate labor, you have to be online constantly. And you get one labor per 15 minutes. And you could burn like 15 labor on one freaking trade pack just making the goddamn thing. So to get to get the crap that you need to get a free subscription, you have to grind up as much stuff like enemies as possible just to get the money necessary to get the free subscription, which is complete crap. On top of that, in order to own land in the game, to have a house, to have a farm, to make trade packs, to like keep storage for certain trade packs, to generally just farm whatever, you have to have a subscription, which again is not available to people who are playing free to play, which makes it even more of a pay to win game. You're paying money for a subscription to own land, virtual land in a game that requires you to pay money to own that land and then pay taxes on that land by using labor which is regenerated while being online. But if you have a subscription, you regenerate labor while also offline, which means that you could do more stuff with your in-game time than just sit around like a fart on a log. and that's the bad. That's some of the worst things about it is you have RNG loot boxes in the marketplace, which cause you to have to spend actual money to get good items out of these RNG loot boxes, which could have been just added into the market itself as either loyalty items or like in-game items that you could pay for. I just realized that my time is also running low, so I'm going to be ending it fairly soon here. So I like MMORPGs because they're fun. Sometimes the community is awesome. Sometimes you get some really good content, and generally they can be a lot of fun. The horrible things about MMORPGs is loot drops. Well, not loot drops. The bull crap that the companies put in it as cash grabs. Cash grab schemes and bullshittery like that needs to be done away with. So now that you know that my frustration and my likes for these types of games, I hope you can check out some of them yourself. I highly suggest, say, try out Black Desert Online. It's awesome. I can form a guild if people want to join up. Let me know in the comment section. Other than that, have fun with whatever games that you're going to be playing, and take care. Bye.